Today I'm showing you how to do the Sumac weaving technique. This technique can be used in any weaving, but I'm showing you on my Iona wall hanging knitting pattern. So in this case, the background here is knitting, and these drop stitches will be, are actually knit stitches, but will be used as what's typically known as warp string in weaving. So let me show you how to do the Sumac technique. It looks like a braid when we're done. So what I have here is some really thick wool roving. You can see how big it is compared to my hand. And I am working with basically 4 strings at a time, for what would be warp strings. In this case, they're knitting stitches. My weaving right now is going from left to right, but for this technique, you're gonna just remember you're pulling the yarn the opposite way. So I'm going left here, I'm gonna pull the yarn back through to the right, up and to the right. So underneath, to the right, pull it through to your desired level of poofiness there. So I'll show you again. So I'm, in this case, working with 4 strings at a time. Take the wool roving underneath those 4 strings to the right. And I'll show you one more time. Underneath and then up and to the right. So I'll continue working this way and then show you how to come back the other way. Okay, so now I'm coming back the other way from the right to the left. So I'm going over with the roving over the 4 stitches, pull the tail under and go up. Pull the yarn up. So over, under the stitches, and pull the yarn up. As you can see, it's making this braided pattern. And that's how you weave the sumac stitch. Next, I'm going to be showing you the bubble stitch. I'm using this really pretty hand spun yarn. So it does look a little like fluffy and just really casual. It's not precise at all. Basically, you're bubbling up the yarn between what would be the warp stitches here. So to do that, I'm going over and under basically every warp stitch like this. I'll show you one because I'm being really careful with this hand spun yarn so it doesn't unravel. So I'm going under, pulling through. It's a little clunky when it gets tight. With the smooth yarn, this would be a lot easier to pull through. But then in the space between the stitches, I'm basically like bubbling this up a little bit so it sticks out. So I'll show you the next one. I'm going, so I left one out, I'm going over that one and under this one. Just using a plastic needle to do that. You could use your fingers too. Got it all the way through, so then just pulling up a little bit of a bubble there and a little bit of a bubble here. Got a couple left to do. I'm doing the opposite of what I did on the previous row. So that on the previous row I went over this stitch, so this time I'm going under it. Pulling it through and then kind of helping it make a little bit of a bubble there. And then, let's see here, I'll do one last one around the end, and then I'll be weaving in the ends later. So that's what the bubble stitch looks like using this art yarn. To make the little tassels at the end of my wall hanging, I'm going to take pieces of roving style super bulky yarn, fold it in half. I'm using a needle. You could use your fingers too. I'm using the needle just because it's easier. Thread the loop through the needle, and then find a stitch at the bottom, like one of the cast on stitches. Go from the front of the wall hanging down through the stitch, and you can remove the needle then. And then you're just sticking the ends of the yarn through the hole or through the loop and then pulling kind of tight. And then you've got a little section of tassels that you can then trim to make even when you're done. I'll show you one more. Got a piece of super bulky yarn folded in half. Stick the middle, basically it's the half point, through the end of the needle, make a loop, and then from the front of the wall hanging, find one of the cast on stitches. You don't have to do every cast on stitch, but just go through.